Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another set of videos in which we actually change our gears from Business Central to finance and operations. This is another ERP solution that was built before Business Central actually, and it is for a very big organization. Whereas Business Central is actually for a small to medium-sized legal organization or companies, whereas finance and operation is for very big organizations that actually have thousands of employees. One prime example would be a company that actually employs construction workers. So a constructing company or a non-profit organization company that actually has a lot of volunteers and a lot of individuals who are working in the back office to do things. So for those companies specifically, finance and operation was created, and you see there's tremendous amount of modules, not tremendous, but quite a few different modules that you can use in order to accomplish your work-to-work task. And the good thing about finance and operation is that all these modules are interrelated either directly or indirectly. For instance, we can go into the human resources, and human resources right here has all the employees associated with it that actually interlinks with accounts payable. So when you create vendors, for instance, when you make a payment to a vendor, so as an employees you can treat them as vendors for your expenses. And employees are also associated with the payroll, so payroll is integrated into finance and operation. Project management, for instance, right here, this module, if I can go into the project, so project management and accounting, for instance, where you submit your timesheets for projects are interrelated with payroll, with the human resources. So as employees, you're using those resources, and ultimately you can expense it in going into the AP. So that's a very good thing about finance and operation, that there's so many modules that you can use, but they're linked together. So understanding from a functional perspective can be very difficult. So that's why finance and operation teams are usually bigger. So you would have one functional consultant for projects, one consultant for just human resources, the other one for just accounting perspective, and the third or fourth one would be just for inventory or asset management. So all of that is required. So a huge team is usually put together to actually come and implement finance and operation for very big organizations. So a lot of times it's really big projects that you can work on, and then quite a few things that you can learn from these projects, and it's always good to actually get certified. So the best thing to actually get certified in this finance and operation is to actually first start exploring things, and once you start exploring, then you'll start understanding how things are related to each other. So this is the actual home page of finance and operation, and I'm a system admin. And in these continuation of these videos, we will start touch basing on different modules, and I'll actually teach you how to do these functional things. So basically on the requirements, very similar way of doing things that I did for Business Central, and we're just gonna do for finance and operation. It will really help you understand and gives you gist of the functional side of finance and operation, what sort of questions you need to ask your client and how you can configure that. So as a system admin, these are your workspaces that you can use. Based on your security, at some point, if you're a user, you may not have all of these and you have only quite few. And that's given, which makes sense. Because you wouldn't need to actually have all of these tiles available to you, because they don't make sense to have all of that. You're not a system admin. You simply only care about accounts payable, for instance, paying the vendors. So that's the only thing that you need to worry about. As an employee self-service, so all employees will have actually access to employee self-service. And within the employee self-service workspace, you could see that you would have quite a few things that you can work with. As an employee, you can go into your timesheets and submit your timesheets, even your registered courses or certification that you may have. You can route these things to your manager and have them approved. So all of that is actually available in the system. Moving forward, just to touch base a little bit about finance and operation, in the general ledger, that's where you're going to go into the system and then configure your chart of accounts. So chart of accounts is quite different than the Business Central. So we'll talk a little bit about that, how they're different, how you can configure that. Same thing with the accounts payable. So all the vendors associated within the organization are here. Some of the parameters and setups that you need to do, so we'll touch base on that as well. Human resources, for instance, is very useful. Quite a few things that you can do here in terms of jobs and positions and employees, and how you assign those employees to those specific positions, and how the positions actually go interrelated with the payroll. Benefits is an upcoming feature. It's not very as extensive as it was in the standalone module of human resources, but after the merger, it's going to actually come in, and later in 2022, Microsoft has announced that they will have benefits module come into play, which will get very nicely integrated into the actual finance and operation environment. Leave of absence is not available currently, and for a year or so, there is no announcement that leave of absence will be coming in. So if your employer or employer, which would be your client in this case, requires leave of absence, you would definitely need to think about some ISV solutions in order to accommodate that requirement, unless they want to wait for a year or so until the leave of absence comes into the merger. Courses, you can talk about courses. These are not related or integrated with LMS systems, but that's a different topic that you can talk about. But you can have courses, assign courses, and then have other team members that also attend courses. So that's all of that is there. Let's just touch base a little bit on the procurement sourcing before we actually close this conversation or this video, because there's quite a few things that I can touch base on, but when next week I'm going to touch base only one module, and we're going to work our way through that module. So in procurement and sourcing, this is where all your purchase orders are, your requisitions are. You can even create catalogs, specify items for your vendors. Quite a few things that are actually here that you can configure that you may not be able to configure in Business Central. And your setup needs to be involved with the sourcing parameters, and there's workflows that you would need if requisition workflows are required, or even purchase order approvals are required. So with that, I think we've kind of covered just a little bit about finance and operation. That's where I wanted to start, because after this, we're going to start touch basing on separate modules, and I'll give you the gist and understanding of these separate modules that we need to cover, and hopefully that would actually intrigue some interest, and then you can start reading about it and try to learn as much as you can to get certified. And once you're certified, then finance and operation really opens up a lot of doors for young consultants. So hopefully in the next few videos, or quite a few videos that I intend to create, will get you into the functional consulting shoes, and hopefully you can get certified.